Welcome, everyone, to Press Coverage, part of the Going for Two Live network. That can all be found at Going for Two Live on Twitter and everything Going for Two at Going for Two. Pretty convenient one-stop shop for everything in the off-season here at Going for Two Live. And today, part of Press Coverage, I'm glad to introduce my guest, Kacey Kasem, which I know isn't your actual last name, but your first name is Kacey, so we'll go by that for this show. But Kacey, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show and get to talk. If my dogs will be quiet.
I guess everyone wants to get involved. I mean, Going for Two, again, everyone watches probably the Armchair Show. That Ryan's dog will usually make an appearance or two every episode. So I think people on this network are kind of we're all animal lovers, animal supporters here.
Hashtag brand. Okay, we got it then.
Yeah, consistency, right? And and I think one thing that's consistently been happening every year is in the fantasy football world anyway, is the Scott Fish Bowl. First off, shout out to Viridian Global, these awesome shirts. Love Pink Floyd, so this is a great shirt, Will, who's been on the show before. But I know you've been pretty consistently participating in the Scott Fish Bowl. How many is this for you now?
So this year is my 7th year in the Scott Fish Bowl. So I have a lot of experience, but obviously no wins. And I don't look for that to change this year with the wins. I'm kind of just setting myself up already for failure, just so that when I do win it, I can be a little humble.
Yeah, I got to stay humble. It's a good technique that way. Which really, a tournament of 1,900 or almost a 2,000, 1,900 people.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough not to be humble, really, just in that sheer magnitude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, back in the day when it was, 300 and, something and 400 and something people that were in it, it felt huge then. And now it feels like just massive.
Yeah. And I really think, more than just the football draft, which is nice, and we'll talk about that. But I think one thing that the Scott Fish Bowl really brings together is the sense of community, and like in so many different ways. You'll have, the pick drafts. Okay, so I was picking 108, so I know for that they had so many people they couldn't really do it on Twitter, so they actually created a Slack chat off of Twitter for all the 108 people to kind of get together. I don't know if you had a similar experience with your pick group.
Yeah, I mean, every year it's super awesome to be able to get in one of those groups and meet a bunch of people that you haven't ever interacted with. So, we got it together right away, and it's nonstop chat going on in there.
And I remember a couple of years ago, when we did the video games, our division chat, which I love the division chats. I think that's great because that's the people you're drafting with, interacting with, can be playing against for at least the first portion of the schedule in the season. But there's a lot of us that didn't really play video games. Like, a few of us in that division did, but I was a character from Assassin's Creed, and no one was really like, oh yeah, this game's amazing. I was like, actually, I played Black Flag once or twice. It was fun. Pirate ships, blow up other pirate ships. Like, I like that aspect. Like, that I seemed one of the more experienced ones at the game. I'm like, oh. So, we were connected with fantasy football and found other ways to connect. I think Tan Ho, who was a guest on this show, was in that group as well. But didn't really center around the video game. But I find this year with music, and everyone seems to, even the people who didn't choose their division, it seems like they at least know songs by artists. So one thing I would love to see this year is all the different division discussions. I know I'm in the Incubus division, and everyone talked about their favorite songs, live concert experiences, and that this just kind of this natural thing happened. Did you find? First off, what artist are you representing division wise? Did you find that same thing?
Yeah, Biggie. So I've got Biggie on my arm. Biggie Smalls he's pretty awesome. He was, and he still is even, So yeah, I'm in there with a bunch of really cool people, and we've got a chat going, and, we're razzing on each other. That's the fun part of the whole thing, because we know it's all in fun and it's all for a good cause. So yeah, it's been pretty rad.
Today, everyone got into trying to use Incubus songs as puns in different things. I've been putting a Twitter thread along of trying to incorporate as many song titles into my draft picks as possible, and apparently that caught on. So yeah, everyone's having fun with that.
We're going to have to do something like that probably in ours, I guess. Bring something up like that, because yeah, all the little added wrinkles and everything. It's just so fun to be able to make it a huge event.
Yeah, and one of the things I usually start with on this show, right back to episode 1 when I had J Mike on, right? The very first thing we talked about was community, and I felt the reason J Mike was the first guest
Hmm.
is the open bar is one of the biggest representations of that, and so I try to
True.
kind of start with that, right? Because I think that's
Hmm.
why we're here. We're talking to know people in the community, and with the Scott Fishbowl being this week, it seemed like a natural point to talk about.
Yeah, and like I met Gabe because we were in the same division of the Scott Fish Bowl. That's how I found out about, Gabe. And then, from there the friendship just builds in the community. That's how I found out about so many people that I consider to be really close friends. So, yeah, and the open bar was the very first podcast that I'd ever been on. I had no clue, and it's such an awesome thing to be able to go on there and just kind of chat like you're talking to your friends and not have that nerve, thing going on.
Yeah, I think now, especially the people who've been on the episode a few times, it's not like chatting to your friends. It really is chatting to your friends over video,
Right.
and the whole internet's watching, and I mean everyone in the chat as well. It's not just the people on the video, so it's a show that really does bring the community
Hmm.
together. I'm glad the Scott Fishbowl does that on such a massive scale as well.
Hmm. Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without the Scott Fish Bowl, and podcasting. Like, it would have taken me a lot longer to like even decide to guest on people's podcasts if it wasn't for the open bar and what they've put together over there.
Makes you feel comfortable, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
feel intimidated going on as well.
Right.
Maybe even a little bit of intimidation because that is can be anxious,
Yeah.
scary, but it feels
But
really
it's a bar
comforting.
for a reason. You drink a little, you feel a little more comfortable. You get out of your shell. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, and the fact that there's so many people on that show, so many guests that they have that are also like minded as you are, and you guys can chat and have a good discussion where it's not like you're stepping on each other's feet and being jerks to each other. You're actually like having a good time with your buddies, just chatting it up.
Hmm. Yeah, we can agree, disagree. It's all in good
It's
faith
all,
and
yep,
all talking fun fantasy.
love it.
So, Scott Fishbowl, talk about the draft quickly. How did you approach your early draft? And sorry, I forget where were you situated again in terms of draft position?
107 was my go-to this year. I've chose that. I was at last year as well, and I know that it's different this year than it was last year, but I don't know. I was like, okay, let's try it again and see what we can do. As for approaching it, I went into it with a mindset of I wanted to get a quarterback in the first round, and then I wanted to come and hopefully get a tight end, one of the dope dudes. But instead, yeah, I ended up with two running backs to start. So that kind of just went out the window. My whole plans, all the mock drafts I had done for nothing, for nothing.
Oh, so you didn't have a 2 RB start in any of the mocks?
No, and all the mocks I was getting like Dak, and then I'd come back around and get like Darren Waller, or I'd come back around and get like a running back in the second round. But I wanted a quarterback in the first round. I was like, I can't do this because in the past I've waited on quarterback and it comes back to bite me every time. And guess what? Carson Wentz is my QB1. So if that tells you anything, then there you go.
I do want to know who are those first two running backs.
I got Dalvin Cook with the 107, and then I came back and got Derrick Henry with the 206. And then
I've
I
seen a
went.
few.
Oh, sorry.
I've seen a few people do that start.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good to have two elite running
It's,
backs. They were the top two scoring running backs last year, right? So
I mean, yeah, and I kind of felt bad not taking them when they fell to me, and even though I know it set me up for failure, at the time it felt really good to draft them. And then I came back and got two wide receivers. I didn't go quarterback because I was like, all these guys are, not knocking my socks up, blowing my socks up or anything like that. So Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf are my, the next two picks that I took after that. And I was like, okay, now let's just do what we got to do. I don't know what else. I put myself in this position, so we're just going to roll with it.
yeah, I did take your start that you wanted. I went quarterback, tight end, went Herbert, Waller. So
Yeah.
I've seen a few of that. I've seen a few people go Waller, Herbert. Actually, I think I know I saw Stompy did the opposite. So yeah, I think we'll see. Well, I'll let you know if the strategy works or not.
Please do. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that.
But yeah, so fantasy football, really all of that starts with football. So
Right.
we'll get into the rest of the questions here, starting with how did you first find football and come to enjoy it?
Well, I grew up in the Dallas area, so I'm just north of Dallas. So obviously, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, just how we roll around here. My dad's from Pennsylvania. He was an Eagles fan growing up, moved to Dallas because of my mom, and she is a Cowboys fan, and he switched allegiances and grew up in a Cowboys household. So, I mean, I was alive for some of the Super Bowls, or some of the Super Bowl wins, but I was such a, I was an elementary school kid. And when you're in elementary school, it's not the same as when you can like really like be in that moment. So, but yeah, just family got me into it. We were a big like basketball family too, big Mavericks fans, and we kind of like Dallas sports. So a lot of that. And I think my dad secretly wanted a son, and I got to be that like, quote unquote, do what the boys do, watch the football and do that, which is like, whatever, girls can do it too. So it was cool to grow up in a family like that though.
Dallas Stars fans at all?
Yeah. So, yeah. And when they won it all, on the controversial, non-controversial, whatever you want to say, we were on our way to our grandparents' house, and my parents would drive us to Alabama, and we stopped off at a hotel to spend the night so we could watch that last game. And so I do remember that memory.
Yeah, I mean they changed the rules next year anyway, so like, they're just like, we'll change it a game early. It's fine. It's legitimate. Sorry, Buffalo. Buffalo once again always gets screwed. It's every sport, doesn't matter.
Right on, right. Hey man.
But yeah, we'll keep that golden Brett standard. Brett Hall, that nickname. But yeah, so we'll back to football. This is not a hockey show, as much as I'm Canadian and want to talk about hockey. Although Stars did get to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Did you in the bubble? That must have been fun to watch that experience.
I didn't watch it as much as probably I should have.
It did happen during the football season, unfortunately. It did kind of complicated for us.
That's kind of a problem with me because I used to be a huge Texas Rangers fan, like massive, like almost the same as I am with the Dallas Cowboys, like tied. And it's just fallen off because I've been focusing so much on football that like the other sports have to take a back seat to that. And it sucks, but it is what it is.
Okay, so it seems like football's been a big part of your life, but when did fantasy football become, or when did you start playing fantasy football? Say it like that. I'll actually ask the question properly.
I started playing fantasy football, I think it was 2011. My friend was like, I need somebody for my league. One of the guys dropped out, and so he knew that I was a big Dallas Cowboys fan, and he knew that I knew basic players, I knew the players, but I didn't know them like I do now with fantasy football opening your eyes to this world of all these players you've never even heard of before. But
you didn't memorize the depth chart every year?
Yeah, I wish I could do that, but let's just say nah. So that's basically how I got started. It was, a 10-team redraft league and blah, blah, blah. I won it, whatever, that's how the story goes. But no, I really did win it. So it was really cool to like get started that way, is like just kind of being in a league with a bunch of people I knew and not just joining some like random league or whatever, which I did plenty of when I first started as well. So
yeah, no, for sure. I've definitely done that. But it's funny. Our sports trajectory is similar. I'm a Packers fan, and they won in the 90s, but as a kid, like, you didn't really care, especially up in Canada, is more concerned with hockey, probably, if anything. And then I started playing fantasy in 2012, so I'm just 1 year right after you, and I didn't win my first year. That's good. Good on you. That's
I'm saying I was playing with a bunch of guys that like didn't set lineups and stuff. So let's not get too out of control here. Like,
so you showed them the way, though.
Oh yeah. I had to do that. I had to show them how it's done.
You actually pick up players off the waiver wire,
right? I mean, come on, guys. It's come on, that's the basics.
Did they think it was best ball before best ball was a thing? Were they like trailblazers trying to?
I think they thought it was like, oh, I just draft a bunch of dudes and then I can go drink alcohol and smoke weed and not set a lineup, right? The tacos, but there were like 9 tacos and
where's
meat.
The fun of that? I like smoking weed and setting a lineup. That's way funner.
We should have told these dudes then. If only we had you.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, sorry, I'm not down in Texas. It's funny.
It's okay. You don't want to be down in Texas.
It's a small state. It's easy to miss, I think. Or
yeah. For sure. Itty bitty.
So leap from football fan to fantasy football fan.
Hmm.
So when did you make the leap into fantasy football content creation? I know you've already talked about guesting on the open bar. Was that really?
Hmm.
Did you do any writing up to that point before then, or did that really started everything for you?
Then that really started it. But even the open bar didn't. It took me a while even after that. Like I would guest on people's podcasts, but I didn't write for anybody. I didn't have my own podcast or anything like that. And it was kind of just a every now and then if somebody needed somebody to fill in, I'd go on or whatever. And yeah, I think about 3, 4 years ago, I was just talking about how I'd been a fan in the Scott Fishbowl for a really long time. And, I talk to all these people who are in the fantasy industry all the time. And we talk about fantasy football all the time. And my homie Tim Turner was like, did you, I mean, why don't you, why don't you write? Why don't you do something? Do you want to? And then Ryan Hallam reached out to me on Twitter and was like, hey, if you want to write, Fighting Chance Fantasy has a spot available for you. Like, even if you've never written before. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me do this. Cause I already am sitting here talking about it anyway. I might as well put my words on paper or quote unquote paper on the screen and people can read it. And, same thing as what I usually do, just in, a nice package.
You're already putting all the time in researching
Yeah.
anyway. That the added time to create the content isn't that much more.
Right. I mean, it is now. As you start doing more and more, it does get like, whoa, there's a lot. But at the time when you're just starting out, you're like, oh yeah, this is like smooth. I can do this. I can do this. So yeah, might as well, put in the effort. Might as well put out some content.
So just starting out, it can be tricky. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is starting out?
So a piece of advice for people that are just starting out would probably be to kind of like see what everybody else is doing that you like. So like when I podcast, I listen to other podcasts and I'm like, I really like the way they phrase that sentence, or I really like the way that they communicated back and forth with each other. How can I incorporate that kind of stuff into my podcast? So I listen to a lot of, like, since I do an interview podcast, I listen to a lot of like the Dax Shepard, Armchair Expert, and a lot of like Joe Rogan and a lot of those big name guys to try to get like some tips and pointers. So do that. Do your research at the beginning. It'll start getting easier as you go, but definitely pay attention to what other people are doing and don't bite their style. But if you like something, their cadence, the way that they sound here or there, take notes and kind of like incorporate that into your stuff.
And I guess that's a good starting out point for someone who doesn't know how they want to start is find out what you like as a consumer, like, and try to best represent that as a content creator.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I think the advantage there is if you can satisfy yourself, that's the most important thing. And then, kind of build it, they will come type thing. Like if you as the content creator are happy with your product, that's good enough to put out, regardless if you don't think it's as well produced as someone else. If you're proud of it and happy of it, put it out there, then people will see that. And the people who don't like it, I mean, not everyone will, but those that will, you'll understand what they like about it and gear towards that. But at the end of the day, it's always you're the one creating, you're the one that has it kind of have to check in on yourself. Is this up to my standards, my quality, right? So understanding what you like is super important to that because it'll best guide you into how to present yourself.
I agree. Yeah, like totally. And when it comes, I was going to say when it comes to writing, because now I'm thinking about like when it comes to writing too, like it's a whole different ball game than it is doing a podcast or doing video work or whatever you choose to do that form of media. But with the writing creation, I would suggest that like not everybody, first of all, not everybody's cut out to write. And even if you're not cut out to write, if you just want to do it for fun, do it for fun. Like just, get your words out there and don't worry about what other people think. So yeah, don't worry. I mean, worry to an extent, like you want to put out content that people at least want to consume. Maybe not everybody wants to consume it, but the content you're putting out is for your specific quote unquote fan base. So put yourself into your writing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's not to necessarily ignore what everyone else says. Like understand, like, people coming in with constructive criticism. It's good to also pay attention to that. But at the end of the day, it's the onus is on you yourself as a content creator to, again, meet those standards to get to where you want to get to and understand where you want to get to. And it doesn't, you might not be the perfect finished product on episode 1 or article
Right.
1, but that's a
Definitely won't be.
natural evolutionary process that takes time.
I was doing so much at the beginning of the podcast that I didn't need to do, that I was wasting hours and hours of my life on trying to make it perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's another piece of advice. You don't have to cut out every and whatever. Like, you don't have to do that. It can be, you're one person, you don't have a team of people working for you. So
Yeah, exactly. And with so if you are a podcast, the idea of editing a podcast, or that could seem tasking, but like the fundamental idea of what you're doing while you're editing, that can be fairly simple, right? Especially if you are just like not editing at all, in the sense that you're just taking the audio file, putting it on, and then exporting it directly, right? You're not cutting in between. Like
right.
that could be pretty simple, straightforward. Like Audacity is a free program that allows that pretty easily. So
Yep.
the technologies now have made it easier to get started than it's ever been.
Right, for sure. That's what was something that scared me when I started out, was that I wouldn't know what to do, but a lot of it's pretty easy to grasp.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, there's tons of people on Twitter. So if you as curious, reach out to anyone. You can see Kacey and my Twitter handles are there, but countless. I mean, basically everyone here here at Going for Two, you can ask anyone anything and they'll answer, whether it's fantasy questions specifically or more technical aspects. Like, everyone's willing to help out and share. So I think that's a great great sense of community in the fantasy football community.
Right
Everyone,
on.
in the sense that we're all competing against each other in our leagues, and maybe competing to get viewers, we're all still trying to uplift each other and help each other out and make the whole community better and more informed and more educated. So, talked a lot about fantasy football in the community, so we'll get away from that a little bit. So, Kacey, what are your hobbies outside of sports, outside of fantasy football?
There's not a lot outside of those things. But no, I like to, some of my favorite hobbies, one of my favorite things to do is to just go to concerts back in the day when you could actually do that. And now that they're starting back up, if you want to call that a hobby, I would call it a hobby because I did it a lot. And I really enjoyed it. Going to concerts live music is just awesome. And now that I haven't had it, I was kind of thinking, I'm old anyway, blah, blah, blah. But, I miss it. So there's that. I like to I have 3 dogs, so we hang out, and hobbies for me, but seriously, wow, I sound real boring. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I do like to freestyle rap. You guys probably, if you know me, you know that I like to do that. It's a real good hobby because it, like, I don't know, get your adrenaline pumping, and you have to think, and it's a good stress reliever for me because I can just get things out. So yeah, that's a great hobby.
Well, and just like forcing your brain to think, right? Like, in terms of people are trying to find ways to improve memory, improve brain functions, right? And like games, Sudokus, and things like that help. But I'm sure freestyle and having to constantly be thinking of vocabulary in specific words and specific rhythm, the timing aspect, like that's you're constantly working your brain at it. And I have seen you do it for 3 whole hours at a time, so it's definitely you've got the consistency, endurance for it.
Yeah, I even make playlists and stuff on Spotify with like beats so that I can have freestyle beats, so I can know, like, oh, this is how the drum beat is, and a lot of the songs have the same, beats per minute, blah 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 blah. And I like to play a lot of word games too. So I don't know, maybe I'm in that aspect. I know for fantasy football purposes, to have a math brain is like pretty dope, but I'm more on that word kind of thing.
I mean, as much as fantasy football's numbers, anytime someone's doing a podcast or writing an article, they're using the English language, or maybe French language. I'm still trying to find consistent French podcasts for fantasy. So if you're out there, let me know, because I will listen. Language is still such a key, important part of the fantasy game, as much as I'm always like, yeah, numbers, yay, numbers. Yeah. But I mean, we're speaking right now. So it's just as, that's just as useful, that part of the brain, that side of that type of form of communication as I communicate clearly.
As you communicate.
The hobbies, freestyle. We'll maybe try to make a rap joke, but I skipped a beat there. But we'll get back to that later. I figured it out. So I guess you're you seem like a fairly open person. You already
Mm-hmm.
talked to a lot. Apparently, it's funny. You
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm so boring," and then your next sentence was, "But I freestyle rap." So that I found that quite funny.
It's because everybody knows about it, so it's kind of boring now. I don't have that cool party trick I can like impress people with, but there's new waves of people coming into the community.
See, I don't know. I feel like that's something that like me knowing that and I see you do it, I'd still be impressed because I still respect
Thank you,
the skill set of it. So I think it's I don't think that's boring.
thank you.
But what is something that you're willing to share that the fantasy community doesn't know about you?
Yeah, that is true. That I kind of am an open book, so it's hard to like really think about something that the fantasy community doesn't know about me. I mean, one thing that I guess some people know, but not a lot of people know. So I graduated from college from the University of Texas, Dallas, and I got my degree in child learning and development. So my whole goal was to like be a teacher or work in some capacity because at that time I was working in an after school program where I was the site director. So I was in charge of all the kids and all the staff members that we had employed for us. So that was my whole, path that I was going down. I started off as a photography major, didn't like being told that they didn't like things that I was doing that I liked. So I changed it to just basically general studies. And then, however many years later, 7 years after I started college, I finally was able to finish since I changed my major so many times. So there's that.
Well, it's the journey, right? Like
Yeah.
the journey of. I mean, you got 7 years worth of education. I guess you have to pay a little extra every year, but like you got your money's worth for sure in terms of being there for so long. So hopefully you've learned a thing or two from that.
Yeah, I learned that it was a bad idea, but you live and you learn. Sorry, kids, go to college, but I'm just saying it's not always gonna, you know.
But and I mean, like career paths and life paths really
Yeah.
are. I know we like to think that this, our education system is kind of okay. Do this and go, and you're set free. But really, I think the human spirit, human freedom is really not. I don't think meant to be that way. Like we're not meant to do one thing for 30 years necessarily. Some people might be, but I also think our world is changing so rapidly that something that's relevant as a career today may not even exist 10 years from now too. So adaptability is also super important for everyone. So
It definitely isn't.
So maybe you were just ahead of the curve on that. You were just constantly adapting.
Yeah, and I guess my mom was kind of like that too. Like she would switch careers. She's a massage therapist, or she wants to be, like in real estate, do this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I'm 37 years old, and I feel like I still don't really know what I want to do with my life. So there's that.
I still feel like a kidult. Like I'm
Yes,
not really a
that's
fully
nice.
adult yet. So I'm also there's a 30 at the start of my name. There's a name number words. They are different, but they're all connected. So we'll get back to these connections here. And again, so your podcast, the Get Real podcast, kind of referenced it a little bit. One-on-one interviews. I know I've definitely had an influence from a few shows on this particular show, and I will say Get Real is one of them that I've kind of listened to and try to, like you were saying, try to listen to what you like to try and influence. When Jeff bestowed upon me the privilege of hosting this show, I was like, okay, well, I was already listening to your podcast, so it was a natural, easy influence. Same with Sam Holt, who I've also had on, so it's kind of like, okay, we'll quickly go to that and provide great guests. But also, this question will be, I guess, more pertinent to you because you already have this style of show. But if you could interview any person, and I know you generally go for more fantasy football, not have to be limited by that. If you could interview anyone all time, who would you like to have that interview with?
I would probably pick somebody that isn't fantasy football related or football related at all. Probably like Travis Barker, I think, just because he has kind of like changed the game at the beginning when he first started out. I mean, he changed the game when it came to like punk rock drumming, and like it's weird that you can be listening to a song and be like, this kind of sounds like Travis, like Blink-182, or this kind of sounds like, Travis Barker. And then you go and look at the credits and there's Travis Barker, he's like on everything nowadays. But I think it'd be cool to sit down and talk to him because there was a point in time where he was very quiet and shy, but he was really just like addicted to drugs and all that fun stuff. So zombified quietness, now that he's talking all the time, I'd love to like pick his brain and also figure out why he's dating a Kardashian. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't care about that kind of stuff. But I would
Oh,
like
wait,
to
are you
cuddle
kidding
him.
that he's dating a Kardashian?
No, he
Or
is dating a
oh,
Kardashian, but I don't really care. I don't. Whatever makes you happy, Travis.
is it
But yeah,
Courtney?
Yes, it is Courtney. So at least
Hmm.
it's yeah,
Good
at
for
least,
him.
Courtney. Yeah, good, Courtney. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
okay.
I do wonder if she's a good she looks
She
good.
look good, So you guys do each other, and then we're good. I'm sorry, guys. This is a shot. Yeah, no children allowed.
But yeah, well, hey, everyone should be happy, right? Like
Everybody should be
that's a good
happy.
positive message that we can send even to the children. I mean,
Yeah, be
so
happy.
uh, you had to be created somehow, right? Well, Geek Mill is here. So apparently, they say PA stand up, learning something new about Kacey Kasem equals a good day. So apparently, we did it. That
There you go.
question
You
was
learned something.
successful. Learning
Okay.
something new. Also, geek again. Sorry to call you geek. I'm also really much a geek, so I don't. It's to me that's not a pejorative term or derogatory at all. But yeah, so apparently Blink-182 is my fave. I do love Blink-182.
I mean, Blink-182 is back here. I didn't join that division, but that was my second choice for the Scott Fishbowl. So
obviously, yeah.
choice
1 and 2. You can't forget
one
them.
and two, and that's the order. Yep, there you go.
I will say Travis Barker is definitely my favorite member of Blink-182.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked him, and like the transplants were like so awesome because Tim from Ranted, and it's good.
that's a lot of legendary punk rock status for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
How did they I know they did one album. Did they ever do a follow-up transplant?
I think they have two. I own CDs. Probably own two of them. I don't know if they did anything else, but yeah, we used to blast that in the car and try to learn the fast parts so I could rap along.
Yeah, I guess he can sing at a rancid pace sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we transplanted that conversation into here. We are going to get to the fantasy real quick. One last non-fantasy question, though. So what is one revelation that you now have, but that you wish you had gotten earlier in your life?
Man, revelations, man. I guess one revelation that I wish, that I have now that I wish I got earlier would be that it's okay, to not have your whole life planned out by the time you're 37. Like, whoop, light bulb clicks, turns on, boom. And you're like, oh, you know what? I'm not the only person in this position. Other people are in the same boat as me, and I'm having fun doing what I do. So don't stress out about things, just kind of, I obviously stress out about everything, but I tell myself not to.
It's the do as I say, not as I do type thing.
Exactly. If you can not stress about things, then more power to you. Please teach me your ways, but Yeah,
I say definitely do that, or don't do that. Don't stress. All right, so yeah, I guess maybe that was the stressful section of the episode, because now we get to the fantasy part.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I don't know. This question apparently lately has been going around is kind of maybe stress inducing. But what are your thoughts on zero RB?
I don't really have thoughts on zero RB. Is that bad?
So you're not stressed about it at all. Perfect.
So here's the deal with me when it comes to my draft strategy is I don't have a draft strategy. And mainly if I am in a situation where I'm trying to do a draft strategy, I end up going with best player available in my head if I get to a point where I'm stuck, right? So if I end up having to go zero RB, the problem is I can see why this is a difficult question. I can see why people, the format, the way that running back has evolved and changed over the years has made it to a point where I think that zero RB may have worked at some point in time, but I don't know if I can see myself going down that route at the very moment,
Yeah, I think so. The thing you were talking about, not really having a strategy when you go into the draft. And I can't remember what show I was on, but someone asked with the Scott Fishbowl, how are you changing your approach? And what I said was my approach doesn't change to every draft, because my approach is I tailor the draft to what are the scoring settings for this league, and like you do, find value, but understand that the player values will shift league to league, and it's just kind of figuring out where those values lie in each league. So the process remains the same in each league, but every league, every draft is kind of its own unique thing that it's really tough to fully take that away to transplant that word again from one league to another.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't. I love I love having to be use my brain right on the spot, right? And like not go, oh, well, I had done it this way. I'm going to continue to do it this way. It's going to work out for me because of so and so mock draft and this, that, and the other. But it's
Scott
not.
Fishbowl.
And it never, exactly. And it never does. And I kind of like that, especially with like being in leagues with people that aren't like super fantasy football focused, that are just like the casual guys and gals, because they change your brain and your thought process on things all the time. And zero RB, might be a way to go in some leagues, because just like you said, settings, and you know your settings and you know the rules, and go from there.
Yeah, I had a dynasty league recently where it wasn't full zero RB, but it was like I guess both people say modified zero RB. Didn't I think I took my second running back in the 9th round, right? So I get behind that more, where I get the one guy that I
Yeah.
can rely on, and then the
Right.
RB2 spot is filled by various players that you can get in the late drafts. And that's one aspect of zero RB I personally like. It's the back end of the draft of hoard a bunch of backup running backs
Yep.
that are an injury away. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you can do that regardless of how you start. If you go with a few running backs early, well then increase that strength and go with more late, and have your bench be, really robust of running backs. So that's one aspect of zero,
Yes.
but I really like. It's the later draft strategy.
Yeah, and the fact that I can go back and think like, oh, I got James Robinson here, or I got so and so off the waiver wire there, and they ended up putting up running back 1, running back 2 numbers, whatever. That's another aspect to it too, that kind of makes it fun.
Yeah, and actually, I want to add one question in here. Improvise, right? I feel like that's kind of your draft style a bit, is to freestyle it a little bit, right?
Oh, there we go. Yes, I like that. Yes.
So we're gonna freestyle it here, but so you mentioned you sometimes play in leagues where it's not people that are maybe diving in as crazy as we are, as veteran fantasy managers as we are. If correct me if I'm wrong, but you've put together leagues that are like specifically women only leagues, where for some women it's like their first chance at being able to play the lack of intimidation sort of thing. Like, so that's true, right? Like I'm not just making this up
You're
and
not
giving you credit for someone else.
So no. I do that. So these draft boards, I have draft boards behind me that are from all the live drafts. They're not from all of them, but they're from the ones I could find. We I started a league my second year in playing fantasy football, where it's all women, and it's all women that I know that live around here. And we get together. They're all my friends, basically. There's a couple of friends of friends that are now my friends, but we get together every year and we do a live draft, and it's a whole lot of fun. And it's a lot of these women, it's their first time playing, and like they do well or they don't do well, and they're like, I'm going to come back next year, and this is what I'm going to do next year. It's just a whole lot of fun, and they get to know about a lot of more players than they're used to knowing about, and get to meet each other, and have a good time eating and drinking and being merry.
Yeah, that's awesome. The more the merrier, right? So
Yes.
yeah, that's great. It's great that you've done that, and you've given people, like, again, this chance that they might not have otherwise. There wasn't someone giving them this opportunity. So I'm sure they're all really grateful. And I know you do, again, you really like the live aspect. So I hope that all is returns to normal
right.
for you this year.
Yeah, it was bad last year. We did it online, and everybody is like, how do you do this?
Yeah, I want the sticker.
Yeah.
Whereas, put a bunch of people who like used to playing, auction drafts online and all this, like a sticker. Where do I click this?
Yeah, right.
Is there player info on this sticker? I want to see what their yards were last year. So do you have a preferred league format?
No. That's the short answer. The short answer is no. I mean, I prefer to play in like PPR, half PPR leagues that are, I don't know, like a 12-team PPR. If I was going to be like anything, it'd be a 12-team PPR, maybe tight end premium, which we'll get to when we're talking about settings and stuff, I'm sure. I'm jumping ahead. My bad.
I mean, if you want, hey, you're the guest. The guest gets the race. If you want to talk about the settings question, we can get right to that now.
I don't really have a format one way or another, or any of the combinations that there are. And also when it comes to like when people are like, do you like redraft? Do you like to play in Dynasty more? I like everything. I am. I don't know. I guess every aspect of my life, I'm like, I'm indifferent. So.
Because you're already making so many choices, choosing players in the leagues. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter, like the settings, format. That doesn't matter. I'm just making my choices during the draft. I don't want to choose anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll read your league settings. If you're John Bosch, I'll read your 14 page, this, that, and the other bylaws. But yeah, let me have fun with it and see how I can adjust to whatever settings and whatever format you have going on.
Awesome. Okay, and then so did you want to talk about tight end premium then when it comes to scoring settings?
I kind of coming around to this tight end premium thing because I like tight ends a lot, and they don't really do a whole lot for you if you don't have. Obviously, we know if you don't have one of the top dudes, you're gonna get a lot of duds and maybe a boom of a game every now and then from your guys, And I usually just have like a handful of Irv Smiths and stuff like that on my roster, and whatever, it's fine. But tight end premium, I don't know. I like the fact that you're focusing a little more on tight ends. Just because I think they get a rough deal. They get it's kind of crappy that a lot of these tight ends are very talented individuals that are just trapped on teams that don't use them correctly or don't, whatever. So I like that aspect. That's a fun little wrinkle that's starting to make its way into leagues.
And I mean, conventionally, it's a lot of added points per reception. But what we're seeing with the Scott Fish Bowl is now, because you could do they have the points per first down in the Scott Fish Bowl. The tight ends also get the bonus points, the premium on the first down, not just the reception. So that seems like it's also becoming, I guess, just first downs in general is kind of becoming a setting that it's slowly creeping in.
I mean, I think that this is going to continue to new wrinkles, new things, new leagues formats and settings. Like, Paul Charchian has the guillotine leagues now, and there's so many awesome things, and the vampire leagues and all those leagues that I have never even participated in, but they all have cool names and stuff. Like,
vampire, it's a little scary.
Yeah, I don't like scary, so
more high intense punk rock. You're not listening to like horror punk or Halloween punk or anything.
Some TSOL or some Misfits or something. No.
It's funny the Misfits, everyone would like to listen to them in theory. Right?
They would, because their logo's so dope, right? You want to like the band because you want to wear the merch, and you don't want to be like, you're a poser, you're wearing Misfits merch. But also, I like the Misfits enough, but they're not my favorite band or anything.
Well, yeah, they're not. I mean, they're not Blink-182 after all.
There's
no Travis Barker.
There's no Travis Barker in this,
right? I mean, I know he's played with a lot of people, but
I have no idea. It's hard to tell. I mean, he's got Demi Lovato and 16 new rappers that used to be, or punk rockers who used to be rappers, and vice versa. So
it's funny how much crossover there is between hip hop and punk rock.
There is, and you know what? I'm here for it. I think it's kind of like the emergence of a second wave of emo rap kind of stuff, but more towards you could front a pop punk band if you really wanted to. Some of these rappers that are out now, so All
right, so we're gonna pull it back a little bit. Well, maybe not. Maybe you can mention a player that's currently playing right now, but all-time fantasy player. So who is your all-time QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, tight end 1? Actually, I know who you're going to say at QB1, I think, but I'll ask it anyway.
You think you know who I'm going to say at QB1? I don't even know for sure if I know who I'm going to say at QB1. No, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, QB1, because he's done me well in the past. I know it's kind of a tricky situation right now, but if I was going to put up my money on somebody that's helped me out, in the past, that's a guy that I think is consistent, and he's not going to let you down.
Good point. I actually thought you were just going to say Tony Romo,
Tony Romo, yes, but fantasy purposes, I mean, he was good, and where you got him in your drafts, exceptional value. But I don't know. I have to think of a guy that's going to get me. It's not going to. I was going to say not going to break a collarbone, but just kidding, Aaron Rodgers.
To be fair, I remember back to 2012, my first year drafting. I think I took Romo in the second or third round.
Yeah,
they could this is good QB value here.
Yeah,
single quarterback leagues got it. How we've learned.
Memories.
I think I did pretty well. I think I finished 4th too, so apparently it wasn't that bad.
There you go.
But yeah, okay. So other positions now. Running back 1. Who's your all-time favorite running back?
my all-time, I mean, we're gonna go back to like closer to when I first started playing. We're gonna go. I'm looking at my board real quick. Who did I pick? No, Jamal Charles.
Nice.
Jamal Charles. So like, there was a like I remember when I first started playing fantasy football, and I had Jamal Charles on my team, and he went off, and like that feeling that I had, like I think I won so many games because of Jamal Charles. I think the reason I won when I win it all, kind of have to say hat tip to you, sir. But yeah, it was pretty badass.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple seasons there in the early 2010s where he was a league winner, RB1 overall, or close to it enough where, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good answer.
I could have said Joik Bell, but I didn't.
That'd have been great. To be honest, that'd prove you.
He was
that
one
you
of
play
my
fantasy
he
football.
was one of my favorites, even though like wah, wah.
Let people know you play fantasy football in one word. I know who Joik Bell is.
Yeah,
That would
right.
be
How do I
one
know
phrase.
you play fantasy football? Yep.
So who's your all-time wide receiver one?
I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna go with Larry Fitzgerald. Because I mean it's Larry Fitzgerald. What are you gonna do? Like that man. Like, yeah, it's sad. He's now at an age where like people that are watching him for the first time are like, huh, what? But like Larry Fitzgerald, the man. So there you go.
Sorry, you were too tight for time there. I wasn't done drinking. But
Oh, I'm
who's
sorry,
your
but
tight
yes,
end one?
yes. My tight end, my tight end one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be funny because oft injured player, but one that has done me right more than once, which sounds interesting to say. But Jordan Reed. I'm gonna go with Jordan Reed. I know that's a kind of an out there one, but Jordan Reed. I mean, when that dude was healthy, I say it like he's like he didn't play last year and all that that jazz. Yeah. But I just for me and for the value you got on him and everything, that's gonna be mine. And I mean I could go like the safe route and say like Gronk or whatever, but or Witten when Witten was like even I mean for a while Witten could put up he'd catch the ball and fall down, but you get decent points off of him. So
yeah, no, for sure. It's funny. My first ever fantasy league I won, I do remember Jordan Reed was my tight end back in 2014, which I believe was one of his healthier years finally. So, yeah, like you said, when he was on the field, he was productive. And
yeah,
I mean, there were times where he was like the alpha on that Washington team. Like he was like the number one target when,
for sure.
in games when he was like, especially when Kirk Cousins took over, like it seemed like they had a really good connection. And yeah. So Jordan Reed, yeah. Cause it's funny because when you talking off injured, productive, okay, this sounds like Gronk, right? But
yeah,
nice curveball.
Curveball. There you go. Yeah. So
especially if you take another NFC East team, but it shows that like
you watch it enough, it kind of gets implanted in your brain. You see him torture team enough.
Yeah. But I was also going to say, it's very much like I'd say your father's influence, right? I mean, he didn't mind switching to division rival from the Eagles to the Cowboys in terms of his fandom. So you have that impartiality in you as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he didn't mind, but we'll pretend.
At least he at least did it.
Yeah. And he stuck with it. So, props to him.
He didn't switch over when the Eagles won a title.
No, but he was with me when that happened, and I legit cried. So,
Hey, I mean, it hadn't happened in what, like 57 years. So,
okay.
Leafs fans, there's hope for you. Back to hockey for a second.
There you go.
So now we get to the part of the episode. Actually, usually we're over an hour at this point. I guess maybe we're wrapping it up, freestyling quickly. I try to do as much of that as possible.
I like it.
Well, it's funny. This is a top 5. We've already maybe referenced it a little bit, the whole episode, but top 5 artists or bands. So, I'm sure you'll have fun with this one.
Yeah. So it's really hard. Like if you ask me this question every year, I swear it changes. It has to, right? I'm going to go Blink-182 1. No. Yes, I'm going to go. We're going to, for now, Blink-182 is 1. And then, I mean, obviously, I want to go Biggie 2, but I'm not going to go Biggie 2 just because I don't listen to Biggie enough now. I want to go 2. I'm going to go Ranted. I would say Rancid. You know what? Ranted's 1. Blink-182. So there we go. Because Ranted's my
Better bass
all-time
player.
favorite. Oh yeah.
Sorry, Mark Hoppus.
Ranted's my all-time favorite band. So I don't know what I'm even thinking sitting here. Like I'm trying to design a tattoo for Rancid right now. Like it's crazy. Okay. So anyway, so Rancid, Blink-182. Then I'm gonna go Big Papa next. I'm gonna go with Biggie next because he's not only was he such a dope rapper, but so influential on so many artists that I love. Without him, I don't think those artists would be what they are. So like you have to be like hat tip, mad props. So yeah, GOAT status right there. Then I'm gonna go with POS, who is a rapper out of Minnesota. I'm like, where is he out of? Minnesota, and he's just like an underground dude. But like every time he comes to Dallas, I go see him. I've seen him in Arizona. I've seen him. God, I feel like I've seen him all over the place. And like Warped Tour, he played Warped Tour one year. So like he kind of mixes rap and hip hop. It's rapping rapping punk. Yeah. No, he's got a lot of like hardcore influences. Like he grew up listening to hardcore music and all this stuff, and so you mix that with like hip hop and the beats and like just kind of melds it together so nice. And so he hasn't put out anything in a while, and he's got some stuff going on. There's some stuff going on, but his music is pretty dope. So 4 for him for sure. And then 5, I'm gonna go with NoFX. That's 5. Yeah, NoFX. So they are a band also in the same kind of like realm as, you know, I guess if you want to say they're like the more hardcore Blink-182, if you're going to be like one of those people who likes to compare bands. If you don't know who NoFX is, you're living under a rock. But I mean, I guess there are some people who don't know who NoFX are. But it's really funny because when I got on with the footballers, Mike Wright's a big NoFX fan too. So I was like, heck yes, you know, like thank you, somebody I can like talk to about music and stuff. So pretty dope.
It's funny. I figured you'd compare them more to Rancid, like just similar era.
I
right?
would. It is the same era, but I do know that like Fat Mike is a big proponent of Blink-182, basically like bit our style, like we're the raunchy fart jokes, sex jokes kind of band, and then they're doing it, but they're doing it more towards more masses. Yeah, no, I mean, if I could see NoFX and Rancid play together, that'd be like a dope lineup. So like, I know Rancid's coming. And they're playing a really crappy venue, and I'm really sad about that. And it's on a weeknight, but we'll see if I end up going.
Worth it, even if
it's worth it. It's just, such a drive too.
Is the venue just like the sound at the venue's not great, or is it not a good crowd?
It's like a really crap. I don't know. Like I would go see bands there. Yeah, like the pit's real small, and then it's like this bigger like auditorium kind of, but it's like a crappy for like if you think of all the venues near you, it's probably like the one that like all the crappy bands play it, but like the big crappy bands play it. You know, it's just like people that were cool with like your parents or whatever, you know, that are like one hit wonders or whatever play there. So
what's the biggest detriment to band is your parents like it. They're garbage.
Because, I mean, for real, right now all these kids are listening to crap, you know, dressing how I dressed when I was their age, you know, and listening to that music, saying that it's retro, listening to 90s. I'm like, come on.
Way to feel older than what you were as a kid is now retro.
Yeah, thanks. Make a girl feel real young.
We can stay young at heart with fantasy football. Right?
There you go.
The players are getting older every year, right? We can, although I guess that's. Oh yeah, this guy's 27. They're old. I guess that doesn't help either, does it?
No, they retire at 30, and you're like, really?
Come on, keep working. No. We appreciate everything any football player has done for fantasy because we're nothing without you, except the ones that do awful stuff. Don't do that awful stuff.
Don't do that awful stuff.
All right, so hopefully some good stuff here to talk about this one. So top 5 books.
You know, as a person who reads a lot but doesn't like, well, I'd say I read a lot. I was reading a lot. Hard time thinking of top 5 books. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is a book that I'd put up there. There's a book called Smack by Melvin Burgess. It's a book that I read a few times growing up. It has to do with smack. It has to do with like, you know, teenagers and life and things of that nature. So I'd put that up there. Travis Barker has an autobiography I recently read that is pretty interesting. Like there's a lot of crap in it I did not know. So when it comes to autobiographies, he's not the best. You know, you have other people helping you write and stuff, but like, it was pretty dope. I liked it. At the moment, I would say that it's probably a favorite book, at least in the last couple of years that I've read. Books, books are fun. Joe Pisapia's Black Book? That's one. And
I was gonna say, can we take like if you read through all the Scott Fishbowl results, does that count? That's long enough to be a book. There's 1,900 people's teams here.
Right?
If you read all that counts
right?
as a book.
I mean, I would think that probably takes about the same amount of time, right, to get through that and to get through one of these big guys. Ooh, you know what? Misery. There we go. Boom. I like Misery. That's a great book. And I remember reading that book and being like, no wonder this movie is so freaking good. This book is so freaking good.
Yay, Misery.
Yay. I don't know how many books that was, but yeah.
I think it was 5.
Okay, we'll go with it.
You're on the numbers. And actually, good transition to talk about movies, because the next question is top 5 movies.
Top 5 movies. So movies, something I don't think changes that often for me, which is good. I can probably talk more about movies than books because, yeah, your girl over here is not the biggest reader. I said I was, but that's kind of a lie. It was kind of.
You have to read between the lines on that one. I'm a reader.
It's been a while. I have a bunch of books stacked up next to, they're in the nightstand. They're there. My wife says, "Read these books." I read them. They're good. Okay. But for five movies, my first one, the movie Go. Again, I guess I've got a bunch of drug-related books and movies in my repertoire here, but yes, we've got now I'm going into an accent. We've got.
I was gonna say, you're going to Train Spotting next.
Yeah, Train Spotting. No, so Go was a dope movie. Dope movie, but yeah, it's cool. Young Katie Holmes, young probably everybody, young Melissa McCarthy's even in it. We watched it the other day, and I was like, sheesh, I forgot about that. Very brief. So using that as a transition, another movie that I like is The Heat, and that's because of my wife. The Heat, the one with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. Boom. I've had to watch it so many times that I think that like the jokes are just kind of like running through my veins now. And then so another one of those that would also be a movie that my wife likes that she makes us watch all the time that I've actually really, really, really grown to love is We're the Millers. That movie is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, then I don't know what is wrong with you, but you should. I even included the whole spiel about the tattoo that the kid gets in my wedding vows. So, I mean, kind of talked about because yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go look up. You at least know that meme of the kid with the tattoo that's misspelled. And so another movie that I'm a big fan of is Love Actually, and I know that's kind of a movie that is a chick flick that everybody watches around Christmas time, but I don't know. It's just a feel good movie. It makes me feel really good. Thus it being a feel good movie. And I haven't even drank today. Also, that movie, I don't know. It just makes me, Christmas puts me in a good mood. So that movie is just like that feel good, like, oh, Christmas is here. And then I also like the animated Lion King. I'm going to throw that one in there as well.
Sorry, I almost forgot the live action one existed. I'm like, why are you saying animated? It's just the Lion. But yes, you are right.
Yeah, I watched the clunker that is the live action CGI, whatever. The one where Beyonce was in it, which is, I love Beyonce, sure, I do, but I don't know. I mean, who for real? Come on, the Beehive, you have to be a hater or whatever. Beyonce. Yeah, right, exactly. But I will say I did not like that version of the movie. I watched it on a flight back from Italy. Yeah, I could have made a better life decision, I think, than to watch the live action version of that.
Could have used that time to sleep.
Exactly.
Was it better than Lion King 2.5, though?
Um, honestly, I don't know because I haven't seen Lion King 2.5. Tell me, is it?
Not worth it. I've honestly I haven't seen the live
I
action
don't.
one, so I need it. Like it's kind of an
Yeah,
incomplete picture. We
it's
both have half of it. I think maybe that's
yeah,
best to keep it that way. The only one that's worth watching is the
yeah.
original
The
animated one.
original animated one. It's the goat. It's the classic. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Like Matthew Broderick. Here we go. At least they had James Earl Jones for both, so we got
Oh
that
yeah,
going for
you
us.
always need James Earl Jones. Yeah,
Exactly.
so it's like Lion King is basically like the Jonathan Taylor. I don't know who's Thomas, but like Jonathan Taylor, that's all I care about. That's all I heard.
There you go.
Perk the ears up. I could eat that all day. But I'm wondering what you eat on game days. That's a really weird way to ask that. But top 5 game day foods. There, less weird way to ask.
All right. So game day foods. Wings are my number one go to. Like me a nice spicy wing. So yeah, and going down that same route, I also like buffalo chicken dip. Like for our draft, I make a buffalo chicken dip that's super easy to make. It's their normal buffalo chicken dip, but like everybody for some reason thinks like me plus a crock pot equals goodness. So that's cool. So yeah, that would be on my list and plus it makes enough to like eat for days. So that's cool. Pizza, obviously. If you've seen my quarantine bod, pizza is very important during the season and outside of the season. Man, foods. It's usually a drink, not usually food that I have. I will eat. You know what? Give me just some barbecue chips, like straight up, like get your hands all gross, like half the bag's just air, but give me those barbecue chips. And I'm gonna throw out. My wife makes those little ham sandwiches with the Hawaiian rolls. Those are pretty bomb. So we'll go that way.
I'm super glad that I ate a ton just before eating. Otherwise, I would be starving. I guess it is close to the end of the episode anyway, so I'd be fine. But yeah, that all sounds delicious.
Yeah, I'm
now I
hungry.
want game days again.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly. You can eat what you want and not feel too bad about it.
and we're less than a month away from real football games because I do count the CFL as real football games, not the NFL preseason. So
Hey.
CFL's covered. So if you like football, folks, watch CFL for a month before the NFL season.
I tried.
I'll keep trying to influence it.
Yeah, I mean, one day maybe. I liked it because there was no football. So you had that, but then it kind of falls off once. Technically, that is football, but there was no football, like our football. So we're just gonna watch it and say yay for your scoring and yay for this and that and the other stuff.
Why do they always punt on third down? Sorry, folks. Exchange rate, we're only allowed 3 downs in Canada, not 4. So maybe a bit of a plug before we get to the final high five. It's some drama because the final high five is usually kind of geared to each guest, right? So what's this question going to be this time? Last episode I asked Troy King about the 5 best Dragon Ball Z fights. I don't know if I could ask you that and have answers.
No, you would get the time that Dragon fought the other guy, and that was the best one. There was a ball.
Okay, yeah. So you see, again, geared to every guest. So what's this one going to be? There'd be a suspense, and you're going to hold on, folks, because nothing official yet. I have spoken to Jeff about this. I'm going to try and provide some DFS content for the CFL. I'm better at playing CFL DFS than I am NFL DFS. It might just be less people playing, better chances of winning, but like I've seemed to have more success specifically on DraftKings with the CFL. So I'll definitely be trying to provide that insight to people. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look, but pay attention to the going for 2 feed, and I'll do my best to provide that. Go CFL.
Go CFL.
All right, and so the final high five. So Kacey, top 5 freestyle rap performances.
Top 5. So I do actually watch a lot of like freestyle rap performances. Like it's I guess that's one of my hobbies too. I like to watch the freestyle raps. So and not in any particular order or anything, although Black Thought on Flex, I would say is probably one. Like I remember that tweet blowing up when they were putting out that Black Thought like did this amazing freestyle, right? And people were like, what? And that's like, guys, it's Black Thought. So I don't know why you were surprised that it would be good. It was great. So I would go that way. If you guys have ever this is going to be a funny one, but he is actually really good freestyle rapper. Lil Dicky. So Lil Dicky on which one? This he's been on Sway in the morning a few times. His newest one or whatever, or the one I was watching from like 2 or 3 years ago. Uh, Dope. He's really funny, dude. So like, of course, there's gonna be like jokes and all that stuff thrown in there, but he's also got like a really good like lyrical flow, and you can tell he's like thinking and like really getting into the process. So, him, just on there, or basically probably any freestyle that you hear him on when he does like the ciphers and stuff. Um, then okay, so JID, if you guys know JID, he's signed to Dreamville. He's on the record label that J. Cole has, and I've seen him live. He's so good. He is just so good. He has such a a voice that you know it's him when he's rapping. Like that's just the way he sounds, his cadence, everything. It's just so good, and he's so he did a freestyle again, another flex freestyle, and I mean, this guy, he's just like, but like not in an annoying way. Like the stuff he's saying makes sense. He's kind of like a lyrical guy. So really cool to see him do that. A guy that's really good, or that was really good at freestyling, Juice World. Um, you guys might know Juice World. Sadly he passed away, but he had Lucid Dream, which is just like a big radio hit, and he freestyles all the time. Like he would do like hours and hours of freestyling. He would just go, like he did one where he just freestyled, which I'm gonna pick this one. He had a 1 hour freestyle that he did on the Tim Westwood show where he rapped over Eminem beats. So that's pretty dope and worth checking out. And you can tell he kind of like, I don't know, it just has a nice he was a really good freestyle rapper, and it sucks that he's not here anymore because his freestyles, to go back and watch those, are pretty cool to like witness. And I'm gonna go with this one. Was kind of tricky for me. I'm gonna go, and this dude is so cheesy and so corny. Logic is so cheesy and so corny, and for some reason I still love Logic. For some reason, even though he's so cheesy and so corny, I still love him. But he did the Five Fingers of Death with Sway. I mean, this guy, you can tell, is like not just like writing stuff down to freestyle, but like he's thinking about it, what he's doing. Some of these guys prepare stuff before they come on, and you've seen guys that sit there with their phone out, like Cole Beasley, who has his phone out while he's freestyle rapping to like read the lyrics as that he's written down. And so the thing about Logic and stuff, like you could tell, because sometimes he'll even rap like, I might repeat myself. And I know that when I freestyle rap, a lot of it just comes straight off the head. And a lot of the time I do repeat myself, especially like previous things that I've said in other freestyles, not because I'm meaning to do that, but like your brain automatically goes there as you're rapping. So, especially if you say it a lot, it kind of gets stuck in your head. You're like, oh, well, that word rhymes with that word, and I like the way that sentence fits in there anyway, so I use it again. Oh crap, so you can tell that Logic does that, where he's like, whoops, I repeated myself, but I've still got flows, so yeah, I would go with that. But there are so many good freestyles that you can go and search. Don't go and get Tyga or anybody like that, because they're gonna have their phone out and they're gonna mumble and trip over their words and say the wrong stuff because they're not freestylers, and not everybody's a freestyler. Like I said earlier, my homie POS, he told me I'm not a freestyler, but not everybody can do it, and some people are better at like writing the actual words. But these dudes, I think, and there's so many. I mean, Mac Miller had some good freestyles. Another guy who you could tell was like thinking on the spot. So just yeah, and like Childish Gambino, he has a bunch too. So yeah, I'd go check those out for sure.
I'm not sure how much truth is to this. Like, I know some rappers just freestyle all the time. Like, supposedly Jay-Z never writes things down. Like, he's always whatever's on the album is usually mostly freestyle all the time. Plan things out perhaps, but so I think the idea that rappers aren't real musicians or anything. Like, I don't know if I'm just saying nonsense propaganda that no one says, but like, if that perception exists, it kind of needs to be rendered false, I think.
It really does. It does. Like when I freestyle, there's no way that I could freestyle and it would be to the standard of being on an album. No matter, even if I would never do that. Even if I was like going to put out an album. I wouldn't do it because I think my freestyles are too basic, and these guys can come up with these things that some of these guys can come up with things that you're like, whoa. And sometimes I'll freestyle and I'll be like, if I ever did write something, I'd go back and listen to that because that line that I freestyled was good. But as a whole, I'd be like, nobody's going to want to listen to that on an album. So it's cool that there's dudes that can do that. That's a talent all in its own.
Yeah, for sure. So just going back. So one of the artists you named, I didn't recognize, JID.
Yeah.
Okay. I will check that out. So
no,
you've taught me something.
For sure. He is very, I would say he's kind of got like that Kendrick kind of voice, like a Anderson .Paak, like when they're like, the tone of his voice, it's a nice, but he blew me away. I don't even know how I came across him. I think it was like recommended to me on Spotify, and then I checked him out, and then I went and saw him. I got free tickets to one of his shows, and then and now he's on Dreamville, which is, like I said, J. Cole's album. So record label. So pretty dope.
Well, I would say this episode was pretty dope. So, Kacey, if there's anything you'd like to say to the people, I mean, that could be, plugging your work, letting people know where they can find and follow you, or any other messages you'd like to provide. Now is your chance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, I want to say thank you so much for letting me come on here and talk. It's sometimes it's just fun to talk about yourself. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at the Kacey Kasem. I spell my name Kacey. And then you can also find my writing with the fantasy footballers. And I have a podcast called Get Real with Kacey Kasem. It's an interview podcast where I talk to people in the fantasy football industry, content creators, YouTubers, the podcasters, people that you see on ESPN, Yahoo, NFL Network, all of those things. So I try to get a nice mix of people who are new to the community, people who've been here for a while, and kind of put out an informative podcast about that.
Awesome. And I think it is good that you spelled your name out, just in Kacey, that no one knew how to spell it.
And the funny thing is, too, 90% of people don't know how to spell it, and that's my parents' fault. So there you go.
I'm going to venture to say 90% of people can't spell properly anyway. Sorry, humans. No, I'm part of that 90%.
Grammarly has saved my life, so,
it allows me to not worry about spelling while I'm writing. Otherwise, it would take so much longer. Yep. And then look after, you have 86 errors in this one paragraph. Oh, well, thanks for finding them.
Thanks.
But yeah, well, I spilled the beans there a little bit, peek behind the curtain. But I definitely appreciate everyone who's come across the feed, watched Geek Mill. Thanks for coming in, commenting. Blink 182 fans exist. You blink and you see one. So you might even see 182 of them at the same time. So really appreciate everyone for coming on, joining the Going for Two Live network. I know this week there was no Dynasty Gambit. I know we've been going every week there. We'll be back next Thursday. And I know just a few days from now, usually it's a week after, but because this isn't on Monday as normal, but Gladys Louise Tyler, her show will still be on Monday. So look for that in just, I guess 2 days from now on Monday the 12th. So I believe they're going at 8 p.m. Eastern. Check on Monday on the Going for Two Live feed for exact times. Sorry, Gladys. But yeah, and anyone who wants to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Senra Says. So there it is on screen. And at the Kacey Kasem, there people can see it now. They know how to. There's no excuse. They know how to spell.
No excuse.
But yeah, so definitely check out everything here on the Going for Two Live network. All the great articles at goingfor2live.com. Kacey, really appreciate you for coming on. This was a really fun conversation. I'm really glad.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it, Kyle.
All right, and to everyone who's watched, listened, and viewed, we really appreciate all of you. So thank you for watching Going for Two Live. This is press coverage.